I learned long ago that if I'm not sure how to pronounce, just say it. They don't know it. They don't know how to pronounce it either. So yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. And always fun to assign some passages with some interesting names in them. And you know, the Old Testament is filled with that. And I love the Old Testament, with the stories, the accounts of how God worked in the midst of maybe some less than desirable situations at times in people's lives. And I believe God speaks to us through those accounts in the Old Testament. We can apply them to our own lives today, and hopefully we can take a few minutes to do that. We do continue this morning with the current message series, Sibling Rivalries from the Bible, by taking a close look at another set of brothers, Jacob and Esau, and their story. And while neither brother kills the other, as was the case of Cain and Abel last week, it comes pretty close to that, as we will see. Now the verses that Bob read begin by stating that this is the story of Isaac, Abraham's son, who at 40 years of age marries a woman named Rebekah. Now they desire to have children, but they are unable to conceive. So Isaac prays to God for many, many years, and eventually God answers their prayers, and Rebekah conceives twins. Now in the story of Jacob and Esau, Isaac is 40 when they get married, and 60 when Rebekah has these twin boys. Now Rebekah was probably younger than Isaac, but that wasn't really the point of the story, their age. The point is that Rebekah doesn't conceive for 20 years after they are married. 20 long years, Rebekah and Isaac have been trying to have a child. And of course, if you're familiar with sort of the prophecies of Abraham and Isaac and eventually Jacob, they were, God said, I'm going to fulfill this promise through you. And so they were expecting to have a child, to continue this promise of God, to create this multitude of descendants. Now let's just be honest here. 20 years is a long time to wait for anything. And yet, I am convinced that God works probably more powerfully in the times of waiting than in the times of receiving. Waiting on God during a difficult place in your life, a difficult experience, a difficult challenge, is probably one of the toughest jobs on the planet. Yet we can have the confidence that in God's time, He will come through. And He will give us everything that we need along the way to get us through one day at a time, trusting Him. So I encourage us, if you find yourself in that place right now in your life, there's something going on and you're saying, God, I wish you would resolve this. I want you to know that God will give you the strength if you trust Him day by day. And one day, for them it was 20 years, God will resolve the situation. God will come through. God will provide the answer. And sometimes the answer is just the strength to face one day at a time challenges in our lives. But I do want to say, don't stop praying. Don't give up. Don't stop praying before the answer comes. They prayed for 20 years. So Rebekah becomes pregnant, but there's something very different about this pregnancy. For even before these two little guys come out of the womb, they are tossing and fussing and wrestling and fighting. And Rebekah is saying, what is going on inside me, God? What is the deal here? And God responds in verse 23 of Genesis 25, 2 nations are in your womb. Maybe that's why there's 2 million people in it, right? No. 2 nations are in your womb. And 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. Now the message from God is that these 2 boys and even their descendants, 2 separate nations of people that would come from them, would have major issues, and the older, and presumably the descendants of the older, will end up serving the younger. And later we find the Israelites, who descended from Jacob, having dominion over the Edomites, who descended from Esau. Now when the 2 boys are born, they name the first boy, who comes out all red and hairy, Esau, which probably means hairy. And he would later be called Edom, which means red, and be the father of the Edomite people. Remember, we talked before about how important The second boy comes out with Esau's heel in his grip. It's almost like the second little boy is grabbing the first little boy and trying to yank him back in the womb so that he can come out first. And that's important, because in that day, the oldest son in the family had special benefits that the younger sons did not. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but for now, let's just say that they named the second twin boy Jacob, which could very well mean, in the original language, he grabs the heel, or even he usurps the heel. Now, usurp implies that one person has taken something away from someone else in a deceptive way. So from the very beginning, there is this really intense rivalry where Esau is the older boy, but Jacob wants to be. If you're looking for a good example of a sibling rivalry, well, the story of Jacob and Esau really fits the bill well. Now, not surprisingly, the hairy red kid grows up, this is a tough guy, becomes a hunter. He's sort of whiny and impulsive, but he loves to be out in the open country. He's sort of like, the tough ones. I'm not sure he's got the brawn, I'm not sure he's got all the brain. But Jacob is much more laid back. More of a homebody, kind of a mama's boy. A bit soft, but very shrewd and has a keen mind. And not only is there a major sibling rivalry going on here, but what makes it even worse is the parents are playing favorites openly. Now, Isaac was a good meat eater, and those yummy wild game dinners that Esau made Esau Isaac's favorite child. But Rebekah loves her mama's boy. And I'm not picking on Jacob, I was probably more of a mama's boy myself. But this picking favorites thing is just made matters worse. And maybe you've never thought of the story of Jacob and Esau as a story on good parenting tips. But it really is. And here they are. Parents, don't pick favorites. You'll make your kids' sibling rivalry even worse. And don't let your kids play you off against each other. If you have differences of opinion, you know this. Discuss them in private, be unified in public. Isaac and Rebekah did a lousy job with that one too. But the reality is, if you're like me, there are times where you get caught up in the moment, and we still, we know these things, right? And it can apply to a lot of areas in our lives, and we know that's the way we should handle this situation. We know that's the way we should do something. But in the midst of sort of life, you don't always live into it. And yet these are good parenting tips for establishing healthy home environments. I think this is interesting. I mean, right out of the book of Genesis, these are the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and they had these messed up, dysfunctional families and struggling in their lives. And I think God says, you know what, even those who follow me closest, who I'm going to use in great ways, are going to have struggles. We can glean good and sometimes maybe not so good for our own lives today. Right out of the book of Genesis. And who said the Bible doesn't apply to our lives in today's modern world? Well, moving on. Although Esau could kill it, Jacob could cook it. And apparently he learned a lot from his mom hanging out at the house so much. And as the story goes on, Esau comes in one day, maybe after a long day hunting without any success, and he's tired and he's hungry and he's kind of whiny, and he practically demands from Jacob some of this meat stew he is making. Oh, it smells so good. And Jacob responds, okay, Esau, just give me your birthright and you can have all the yummy stew you want. And I'm thinking, say what? Oh my goodness, Jacob has been trying to get the birthright ever since birth when he's trying to yank Esau back in the womb so that he can come out first. So what's up with the birthright? Let me tell you a little about this birthright business in the ancient world. The first male born to the family basically was next in line to be sort of the patriarch, the leader of the family, if you will. And while the other males got some of the inheritance when the father died, the eldest, who had the birthright, got the biggest share. And Isaac had been left a whole lot of worldly possessions from his father Abraham. So a lot of wealth was hanging in the balance, maybe millions of dollars worth in today's money. Oh, incidentally, if you were female, you just better hope you were able to get married and that your husband lived a long time. Because in that day, you were totally dependent on your husband or his male relatives to survive, because nothing actually belonged to you legally, and you typically didn't get any of the inheritance. Now, this request of Jacob for Esau to give up his birthright seems like a crazy request. No one would possibly agree to that, right? But remember, while Esau was the rugged outdoorsman, he was not only a little whiny, he was also kind of impulsive. And in verse 32, he says, "Look, Jacob, I'm about to die here. What good is my birthright if I'm going to die of starvation?" And to which Esau responds in verse 33, well, basically he responds, "Well then, sounds like we have a deal, don't we?" Or Jacob responds. And he makes Esau swear or promise to give him the rights that normally went with being born as the first male. Then gives him some stew. Not much of a trade, if you ask me. Matter of fact, the story reminds me of a couple of kids that I was playing Monopoly with once. There was a group of us, 5 or 6 of us playing. I think it was a pastor's kid, a grandkid, in my home church. And 2 of the kids were brothers. One was a fair amount older than the other. And the older brother, right in the middle of the game, says to his little brother, we're sort of making deals and changing properties. And the older brother says, "Hey, I'll give you 10 of these monies for 1 of those monies." Well, the 10 of these monies were dollar bills, and the 1 of those monies was a $500 bill. And the little boy says, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea." But we put a stop to that real quick. But some things never change. Now, of course, Esau was an adult. But Jacob's deal with Esau is nothing new when it comes to sibling rivalries. Just go watch some families argue and file lawsuits when the will is read. Now, I have no idea what made Esau accept one of the stupidest deals in the history of the world. I don't know what else to call it. But he did. And I would say, friends, God gave us a brain. He gave us other smart people around us in addition to ourselves. He gave us the Holy Spirit to discern and wisdom. Everyone got a conscience. He gave us His Word, which has all sorts of great life teachings. Why is it that we still make dumb decisions at times? Right? Well, perhaps in part because we're impulsive, we're stubborn, prideful, and we don't use all the tools that God has given us. Don't be an Esau. Be wise. Use all that God has given you to make decisions, and you won't trade your birthright for a bowl of stew. Well, Esau clearly did not use his God-given tools, and he gives in to this deception of his brother Jacob. And in the last verse of Genesis chapter 25, verse 34, it says, "So Esau despised his birthright." Now, maybe that meant that Esau hated his birthright, since he had given up. But it may well have meant just an acknowledgement that Esau had walked away from it, despised it, gave it up. He walked away from his rights for a bowl of stew. Now, this is not all that Jacob deceives Esau out of. And for the rest of the story, we've got to move over to Genesis chapter 27, a couple of chapters later. Isaac is getting very old by now. And he is going to give a very special blessing, a verbal blessing, to the older brother, the one that is, has the deserving by a tradition of the birthright. And I'm guessing, I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing that Isaac never heard about the birthright stew incident. And he says to Esau, "Oh, Esau, before I give you my blessing, go hunting and fix me just one more of those great wild game meals while I can still enjoy it." Friends, that's going to be me. Just one more big, juicy Outback steak and I'm ready to meet Jesus. Well, anyway, and I want to summarize the last part of this, verses 5 to 29. Rebekah overhears come give me a blessing. And she gets this elaborate plan to deceive Isaac into giving Jacob the blessing instead of Esau. Let me add that in the ancient world, blessings were huge. They weren't just words, they were like law in the family, almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. They would come to pass, typically. And so Jacob puts on these animal skins to imitate Esau's hairy skin. And then Mom makes the meat dish just like Isaac likes it. And Jacob goes to his dad and takes the meat dish and flat out lies 4 times about who he is. But Isaac, he can't see very well. And it feels like Esau. And it smells like Esau. And the food tastes like what Esau would bring him. And so even though it sounds like Jacob, he gives them the blessing that would normally go to the older son. And he talked about your brothers are going to bow down to you and you're going to beat over them. Keep in mind, Isaac likes Esau anyway. He's not hiding that. So he probably just poured it on, this blessing, into his life. And then when he finishes, Jacob leaves. Well, no more does Jacob walk out the door than in comes Esau. And Esau and Isaac are both completely beside themselves and upset that this has occurred. Now, interestingly, Isaac does not take the blessing back. In the ancient world, it was considered dishonorable to go back on your blessing, apparently even if it has been received deceptively. So once it was given, it could not be taken back. So Esau says, well, gosh, Dad, can you at least bless me too? And Isaac gives him a blessing, but it's nowhere near as great as the one that Jacob received, because he's already basically, blessed off the farm and the family. So Esau he's obviously very angry. He's ready to kill Jacob. And so Jacob leaves in a huge hurry, lives far away for many years with good old Uncle Laban, who ends up deceiving and cheating Jacob, but we'll leave that story for next week. Now, some years later, there is some reconciliation, some resolution between the brothers. Jacob is probably matured at this point, a fair amount more, and he's very gracious and humble. Maybe he's a little scared, too, around Esau at that point. But, my goodness, this is one of the patriarchs, one of the fathers, of ancient Israel. And the story of deception, of dysfunction, and this intense sibling rivalry. And here's the thing. It was already God's will for Jacob to be the one that would take the line down from Abraham, leading to all the multitudes of descendants. That was promised way back when Rebekah was still pregnant with the boys, the twins. But Jacob and Rebekah taking matters into their own hands to try and make it happen was still wrong. And I think perhaps the most significant point of application to our lives today from the story of Jacob and Esau is that the ends do not justify the means. Getting to the desired result, no matter how much we think that it may be the right one or even of God, does not justify using methods and measures and means that would not be in line with what God would desire. Now, we live in a society where it's very acceptable to, bend the rules, stretch the truth, tell those little white lies, or whatever else it takes to get what you believe is right. You believe that sometimes it's just what we want. But sometimes we genuinely believe that's what's right in the situation. But it's wrong. I grew up, when I heard this story as a kid, how many of us felt sympathy for Jacob? Well, after all, Jacob was God's man anyway, right? Esau's an idiot. He brought it on himself. And that's kind of the way that we grew up hearing this story. But I want to challenge us that even though God let that stand, that what Jacob and Rebekah did, nonetheless, was not the way God could have made it happen if they would have done what was right and honorable. And there will be times in our lives where we want something so bad that we can almost taste it. And we lower our standards, we make exceptions, we look the other way in order to get what we believe is the right outcome. Friends, even if the result was good, and sometimes it doesn't end up being good, but even if it was, it doesn't justify getting there by doing things that would not be, I guess what I would have, the phrase that I would use that I've heard is on the up and up, you know. By doing things that would not be pleasing to God, instead doing it, you know, be true and honest and genuine and sincere. The ends don't justify the means. I think that perhaps is one of the biggest takeaways in the story of Jacob and Esau. But what did we learn from today's sibling rivalry? Because sometimes I try to, what is the main theme of this passage? And sometimes with these, it's like, well, let's just look at the stories of Scripture and see what we can glean from them. And so today we learn to wait on God, even when things are taking longer, the situation dragging out than we would like. Hanging in there, trusting God, staying close to Him. Parents learn not to pick favorites and don't let our kids play us off against each other. We learn to use tools, all the tools that God has given us, to make wise decisions and avoid dumb ones. And we were reminded that the end do not justify the means. That God doesn't need us to lie or be unethical or manipulative in order to accomplish good things in our lives or in our world. All that from one sibling rivalry. Well, next week we're going to learn and look at the account of a pair of sisters. Jacob will learn that what comes around goes around. And so I encourage us to come to hear the story of Rachel and Leah and see what we can draw from that account in Scripture. I also want to maybe use this as an opportunity to encourage you to take a look at Scripture, maybe some of the places in the Bible that you don't necessarily always get to. Take a look at those accounts and say, you know what, God? How are you speaking to my life today about this situation that happened 3,000 years ago? Because I got news for you. The reality, human behavior, I mean, we're still human, just like they were human 3,000 years ago. And you'll find things in there that you can relate even to your own lives and our world today. Learning from both the good things and the mistakes of those who really kind of gone before us, in some cases several thousand years before us, as in the case of Jacob and Esau. May we pray. God, thank you so much for laying it out there the way it was, and the way it occurred, and not making it look better. Allowing us to see the mistakes and the challenges and the people that you used even in great ways when they weren't so receptive and open, God, to your plans and will and the way that you would work. God, help us to be able to draw truths for our own lives today that will encourage us, God, to live into the lives that you have called us to, and to learn, God, even from our mistakes, that we might live better lives, more effective lives, more joyful lives as a result. God, we just thank you for your word, and we thank you, God, for the way that you teach us through it. May we take the initiative to be in it regularly. In Jesus' name.